thank you for coming. I've no idea what you're doing here. You're probably looking for Jonathan Franzen or somebody. He'll probably be here or somewhere. But seeing as you're here, I thought I would tell you about my new book, this new book, which is called Westmoreland Alone. Westmoreland Alone is a book in a series of books that I'm writing, which are called the County Guides. And it's the third book in the series, but I'll assume that for some reason, you know, through no fault of your own, you've missed the first two, so let me recap. In these books, the County Guides, they're set in the 1930s, and there's my hero is a character who's called Swanton Morley. And Swanton Morley is a self-taught man, self-made man. He's an autodidact, he's an encyclopedist, and he's a journalist. And he takes off around the country. He's travelling the length and breadth of England and to write a guidebook on each county. And he's assisted by his brilliant and wayward daughter, Miriam, and also an assistant who's called Stephen Sefton, who is a veteran of the Spanish Civil War, and he narrates the books. So this intrepid trio set off and they travel throughout England. And when they arrive in a county, ready to write their guidebook to that particular county, wherever they've arrived, there's been a murder. And so the books are about how they end up solving the mystery of the murder in each of the counties in which they arrive. Now, you will probably know that there are 39 historic English counties. And in the end, I'm going to actually write not 39, but 44 books, because as well as, there's the 39, but I'm dividing Yorkshire up into the ridings. So you've got North Riding, East Riding, and West Riding. And then I'm taking the City of London kind of in and of itself as an entity. And then I'm doing the bailiwicks of Jersey and Guernsey both together. And that in the end will make 44 books. As I say, this is number 3 in the series of 44. I've already written number 4 and I'm working on number 5. And if I keep going at this rate, I should be finished by the time I'm about 90. So I hope you kind of stay the course with me. I think the idea is that I read something from the book, and I'm going to do that. The books obviously aren't really written to be read out loud. They're written to be read in your head. So you just have to imagine that this is the voice in your head. This is from a chapter which is called The Joy of Pickling. And it's my 3 characters are gathering for breakfast. Morley had already put the morning to good use. The police may have had a murder to solve. There's been a murder, remember. The terrible death of young Lucy was, of course, still to be properly investigated. A young girl called Lucy has tragically died. And there were still no trains running on the Settle-Carlisle Line. There's also been a big train crash, which meant dozens of people remained stranded in Appleby with no means of leaving. But none of this was going to put Morley off his stride or his schedule. He had been up from 5, as usual, and had his typewriter and pads and pens arrayed before him on the table in the breakfast room of the hotel, much to the annoyance of the other guests, no doubt, whose boiled eggs, tea and toast were accompanied by the sound of hammering typewriter keys and the frantic scribbling of handwritten notes. Noises unwelcome at any time of the day, frankly, but particularly so at breakfast. He was busy working on the page proofs for Devon. Now, I should say the page proofs for this book, Devon, that he's working on, is his previous County Guides, his guidebook, which also happens to be the previous book in the series, my series of books, the County Guides. You just see what's happening. He was busy working on the page proofs for Devon by the time I arrived downstairs. The I speaking here is the narrator, Stephen Sefton, who I told you about before. By the time I arrived downstairs and had already knocked off an article or 2 for the newspapers. He's an obsessive compulsive writer, Morley. He has graphomania. Something or other on wicker work, apparently, and something else on the chemistry of home fermentation, inspired no doubt by the inescapable smell of cabbage in the hotel, which meant that even breakfast smelled like some hideous Bavarian workhouse supper. For Morley's history of sauerkraut, incidentally, one of his more esoteric interests, and for his original sauerkraut recipe, reprinted in Morley's Joy of Pickling, and which was said to be a great favourite of George V and Queen Mary, see his article Sauerkraut Connections in Human Nutrition, Volume 26, Number 4. I enjoyed my customary breakfast of 2 cups of coffee and a cigarette, with a delicious side order of a lecture on the health benefits of fermented food and the role played by Captain Cook in developing methods for the storage of perishable food items on long journeys. And we were eventually joined by Miriam, that's Morley's daughter, around 9. Miriam arrived wearing a silk turban, a supercilious smile, and a grey silk dress that might have been nightwear and might have been evening wear, but which certainly was not breakfast wear. She was whistling a dance tune. She'd been out the night before. "Good morning," said Morley. "Good evening." "Fabulous," said Miriam, overemphasising the fab. "Fabulous, out of this world." "Out of this world? Literally?" asked Morley. He's a bit of a pedant, Morley. I would only have cramped your... Oh no, she says, "Literally, father." "Yes, literally. You really should have come. I would only have cramped your... It's very difficult distinguishing between the voices. If you're a man like me and you just sit by yourself writing books, it's difficult to actually do the voices of your characters because they don't sound anything like this, obviously. Let's try that exchange again. "Fabulous," she said. This is the woman, Miriam. "Fabulous," Miriam said, overemphasising the fab. "Fabulous, out of this world." "Out of this world? Literally?" asked Morley. He's the pedant, yep. "Literally, father. You really should have come. I would only have cramped your style, my dear. Do you think?" She struck a pose like a mannequin in a shop window. "I doubt it. You wonder sometimes, don't you, how Dickens did it? You know, doing all those voices. It's a very skillful thing to do. This is a woman that I'm doing at the moment. Do you think she struck a pose like a mannequin in a shop window? I doubt it. Sefton, you should have come too. You might enjoy frisking your whiskers occasionally." "Yes," I said, because it was easiest. "Or on second thoughts, maybe not," said Miriam. She lit herself a cigarette, poured a cup of coffee, and proceeded to do her best to slouch languorously at the breakfast table. "Now, children," said Morley, "you'll be delighted to hear that I do have a plan for today." "Oh, good," said Miriam. "Can we go home?" "Hardly, my dear. The police are still very interested in what we have to offer to their investigation." I coughed. The police were about as interested in what we had to offer to their investigation as a pig is interested in the people who throw out the swill. It is a purely functional relationship. I hope that made some kind of sense. And I hope you enjoy the books. They are intended for you to enjoy. So thank you very much for coming. You can go and look for Jonathan Franzen again now.